Hey y'all, welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing 4 more quick and easy dinner ideas that I made for my family this week. I enjoy making these videos as well as watching videos like this just because sometimes I need some new ideas for things to make for dinner. So I will put all of the links in the description as well as the comments, but we are going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I'm making, we have always called it rice dressing. My grandma makes it all the time. She just uses a few different ingredients than what I do, but basically it's a combination of ground meats. So I'm using just ground beef, but you can also use ground pork or a combination of the two, and you cook it down with rice and bell pepper, onions, celery, and then I like to put some green onions on the top of mine at the end, and you use Cajun seasoning blend in order to season it all up. We actually eat this as a main dish sometimes, like I'm doing right now, because it's just super easy to make and it's got, your meat and your rice in it. But we also eat it a lot of times at like the holiday meals as a side for Thanksgiving. We put it right there next to our cornbread dressing, and I have had this made a variety of different ways. I am right on the Texas-Louisiana border, southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana. So I have people in Texas that make it a certain way, and then we have people in Louisiana that make it a different way, and it's always just a little bit different. But this is the way that I like to make it because it's just simple and easy. So what I have done up until this point is just browned my ground beef with salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. While that was cooking, I diced up some onion and a green bell pepper and also a couple stalks of celery. And then I just put it back into this skillet with a little bit of bacon grease. I like to use bacon grease whenever I'm making my rice dressing to saute my vegetables in, but you could also use butter or just any other type of cooking oil. Once those vegetables start to get pretty soft, you're going to add your beef back into the skillet, and you're going to use a Cajun seasoning blend to season it all. I use a store-bought blend. This is actually not from the store. My cousin gave me this. This is somebody that she knows has her own Cajun seasoning blend, and she gave me a can of it. So I'll put the name of it down in the description and see if I can find out where you can purchase it from, since it's a small business and it would be lovely to support them. But then you're going to put your rinsed rice back into the skillet. I believe I used 1.5 cups for this. If you're going to be making this as like a dressing for a side for Thanksgiving, we definitely bump up the amount of rice that goes in there. Rice just goes a lot further. And we are big rice eaters around here. My husband's papa actually grew up on a rice farm, so that's kind of just an interesting little tidbit. But then you add in your beef broth to the skillet, and you're going to bring that mixture up to a boil. Going to reduce the heat down to a simmer, put the lid on it, let your rice finish cooking until it's nice and tender and that liquid is gone. I always open up the skillet a couple times while it's cooking and stir it around because it has a tendency to stick on the bottom. So that was dinner that night, quick and easy, only uses one skillet, which is hands down my favorite type of meal to make on a weeknight. So next I'm going to be making another easy dinner. I bought these huge packs of pork chops from Sam's. I'm only going to be cooking up about half of them this evening. And I'm going to be using some homemade ranch seasoning that I use a lot of times to season different meats and things like that with. I also use it to make like ranch dip for vegetables. But I just seasoned both sides of the pork chops with salt and pepper, and then put that ranch blend on one side of it. That tends to be enough. And then I melted some salted butter down in my cast iron skillet, and I'm just going to cook these in the cast iron skillet. The butter gets them a nice little crispy outside on there, and they're so good cooked down in butter like that. And I kept it super simple when it came to sides this night. We had a box of mac and cheese in the pantry, so I made that. And then we had a side salad with it. All right, next up we have something that I had never made before. It kind of reminded me of white chicken chili, except I made tacos out of it. So I'm starting with my Instant Pot, put a couple chicken breasts in there, and then I had my seasoning blend, and I'll put all this down in the comments like I mentioned at the beginning. And then I sliced up some poblano peppers and diced an onion up. Then I also took, I think I only used half a block of cream cheese, but I cut it into little cubes like this. And then I just started putting everything into the Instant Pot. So I have my chicken breast in there. I put my seasoning on top. I put the peppers, onion, cream cheese, and just a little bit of water in there. And then I cooked it for about 20 minutes. Once it was done cooking, I just took a couple of forks and shredded my chicken up really good. And at this point, I was trying to decide exactly how we were going to eat this. After I tasted it, I realized it was probably a little spicy to eat with rice, which was what I had originally intended. And I thought that my 2 boys probably would not enjoy it like that. So instead, I decided to make some tacos out of it because I knew I could, add some extra cheese to theirs and not go so heavy on the chicken. So all I did is put some parchment paper on a baking sheet with some corn tortillas, sprayed one side of the tortillas with a little bit of oil, flipped them over because that'll serve as the outside to let them get nice and crispy. And then I started putting the cheese, chicken, and some more cheese mixture on one side of the tortillas. Then I folded them over and I put them in the oven to bake so they could get crispy on the outside. And while they were in the oven baking, I went ahead and made up some green dip using avocado, Greek yogurt. You could use sour cream as well. And then like salt, pepper, garlic powder, and a little bit of water. I just blended it up and we were able to dip our tacos in that. And I'll definitely be making this chicken again to make tacos out of. Like I said, it kind of reminded me of white chicken chili, which we always enjoy whenever the weather cools off, but turning it into tacos like this was also a hit and still had a similar flavor. So I'll be making this again in the future. Now next up, I am making a pot pie pasta. So I'm gonna start by cooking my chicken thighs that I've cut up into small pieces in a little bit of salted butter, and then I'm just going to season it with a little more salt and pepper. Let this cook down in the butter, and then I'll add my vegetables to the same skillet. So I'm using a diced onion and then some frozen mixed vegetables that I had in the freezer. You're essentially just making a pot pie filling and then putting noodles in it instead of pouring it into a pie shell. Making little changes like that is just a simple way to have a basic recipe and then change out one aspect of it and have a totally different dish. I also like doing things like this during the hot months because I don't have to turn my oven on. So I can make pot pies whenever it's cool outside and turn my oven on, and it's no big deal to warm the house up with it. But in these really hot months, I prefer to cook on the stovetop as much as possible. And I'm just seasoning those vegetables with a little more salt, pepper, and some ground thyme. And then I'm cooking my noodles. I chose to use some fettuccine because that's what I had in the pantry. You can also use egg noodle, whatever type of pasta you have, it works fine with it. Now I'm putting some flour on top of my softened vegetables, and I'm going to stir that around. You can add a little more butter or oil at this point if you need to. And you just want to coat them real good. This is what's going to make your pot pie filling thick. So I have a combination here of milk and chicken broth, and I'm just going to stir it in little bits at a time, kind of incorporate that flour, let it break down in there. And then as this mixture comes to a boil, it will start to thicken, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. But while it was all coming together, I went ahead and added my chicken pieces back to it so that they could finish cooking if they needed to. They should have been pretty well cooked at this point, but that's why I like chicken thighs. They're much more forgiving than chicken breast whenever it comes to drying things out. So I added them back in there and let them cook in the filling, or not filling, but the pasta sauce, I guess is what it would be at this point. And then I just put my cooked noodles back into the mixture, stir it all together good, and that's it. I put some fresh parsley on it before we ate it, and that was dinner for the last night. So I thank you guys for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video.